Hey, welcome. It's Fiona taking you through this chapter here now. And what we're going to look at in this section is at a specific subject and how you're going to interact with your subjects. So before we go into the details, I want to say, as somebody who's been a university lecturer and a student for more years than I care to admit, I know that life gets stressful. Balancing life with study can be really exhausting, but the most important thing you can do is turn up, whether that's in person for online tutorials or just watching your recorded tutorials if that's a facility you have. Even if you haven't done the readings this week or you have other demands on your time, just turn up and you have a much higher likelihood of graduating from your course. Okay, well, with that out of the way, when it comes to subject content, the key word that you need to know in this section is Interact2. The study materials for your subject are organised through this online site in Interact, and you'll use this page here that you can see to orient yourself in the subject. It tells you where your assignments, what readings to do each week, whether it's from a textbook, an e-resource or a web link, where you'll find links to the library, links to support services, and your really important subject outline. So each subject has its own site, and this is going to be the area that you're going to use most. So I really encourage you to explore this for yourself. Look into every little corner at the beginning of session. So here is Human Resource Management, or HRM 515. And if we have a look at this page, you can see that there are a few menus across the top, across here, and then one right at the top there, and then down the left hand side as well we've got a menu bar of a whole lot of tools. I really encourage you to have a look at all these other menu items. Up here we're going to have a look at student success, but you have a bit of an explore with some of these other things as well. What we're going to look at now is these tools down the left hand side. And you can see we're on the home screen here, a little bit of an hello. The participants guide, which Catherine has talked you through, that'll be a link there. The subject outline, we're going to get back to that in a second. Some information that's really important. This is the content for the subject. This is a case study that you'll be working on in this subject. And then topics here, you can see here are some links to the weekly work that you have to do. And then resources here, that's just a downloadable link for some extra resources. This is the CSU access to support, so we're going to have a look at the library a little bit later, but there are some direct links there. Learning opportunities, so that's academic support, and some other useful links just to be able to ask questions to the university if you have any. Okay, so let's have a look at the subject outline, because that is really important. So I just clicked on that and I downloaded it. Okay, so you can see here it's 25 pages, and if this is one of your first few subjects, I really recommend reading it from top to bottom. Sometimes beginning students are like, nobody told me to do this or that, and it's like, well, actually what we're telling you is to make sure that you read your subject outline, and that will actually really lay out all the things that are offered to you when you have to deliver things, and really just what's expected of you. So it's really important to take this subject outline in its entirety, read from top to bottom. Okay, so you've got the overview, you've got the learning outcomes, attendance, really important to know these sorts of things. Contact procedures, kind of says how you can get in contact with your subject facilitator. Back on the Interact site, so that's a good thing. That's just to remind you that it's a great idea to have an email address and a phone number, just in case you have some inquiries. That's a good idea just to write that down somewhere else. Okay, and then support strategies, how you expect to engage with the subject. I think that's really important, because it kind of tells you how just weekly to get in there and kind of go, okay, so there's a textbook and then there are readings online and all these sorts of things, just so you can balance it. Sometimes it's kind of confusing, you don't realize. all the different sections, and it does take a few weeks to actually work out, like, okay, I've got to visit this section, then I have to find out what readings I have to do in the textbook, and then I have to read the topics each week, and then I have to know if I turn up for tutorials online or in person, and also when your assignments are due. Workload. So every subject at AGMC is 10 to 12 hours each week, and that's in a 12 to 14 week period, so that's really important to make sure that you have enough time. Your text and learning materials here, that's great to know. Here's your subject, your textbook for this subject, and if you have your enrollment settled early enough, this should be posted out to you for free, no extra charge, 2 to 3 weeks before session starts. So that's really a great idea to just keep an eye on that. If it hasn't arrived, make sure that your enrollment is actually settled properly, but that's going to be coming your way. Then we've got the schedule. So I think this is a really great thing because it summarizes how you're going to interact with the subject throughout the session, and you can write down when your assignments are due, put them straight in your diary or your calendar. I love those schedules. They really help out. And then we get into the assessment section, and I tell people to really turn their brain on carefully, because if you haven't been a student in a while, sometimes getting your assessments together can be, a learning opportunity in itself. You have to be pretty detail oriented because sometimes there's a lot of instructions, and so just make sure that you read really carefully when everything is due. And here we are at the actual assessment tasks. So you can see that it's a 10% assessment. It's due on the 1st of August, but the return date is 3 weeks later, and that's pretty standard at AGMC. You've got a word count, and then how you're going to submit will be made clear in your topics. Okay, so then you've got the task section, and you've really got to read this really carefully. A rationale is about why you do this assessment. It kind of helps you to make sense. And then we have this thing called a marking rubric. These are the marking criteria that your marker will use to give you different grades, and it's really important that you take notice of this, because sometimes it can look a bit complicated, but this is actually how you know what is expected of you in each assessment, and that can be really helpful. And you can see that this is a 10% assignment. 7 marks are for this section of the assignment, and 3 marks are on referencing. So that's a pretty important amount on referencing, so it's a good idea to start thinking about getting your referencing right. Presentation is important too, because often formatting can be very specific, and you'll lose grades if you don't get your formatting right. As a marker, you can sometimes have to mark a lot of papers, and from the student side of things, sometimes you look at the presentation thing, you're like, oh, it's so specific, why do I have to do it so specifically? But as a marker, you want to be able to mark with ease, and one thing that we all know is we want to stay on the right side of our markers, don't make them unhappy. So this is an easy way to take advantage of all the marks that you could be coming your way. Presentation is really important. Okay, so again, requirements, really, really important. So as you can see, there are quite a few details, and it does take some time to get through, synthesize all these details together to be able to hand in assignments. Okay, so that is a subject outline. I'm just going to skim forward a little more. Again, you can see here are more assignments that you have to do, and you can see that the marking criteria are getting a little more complicated. Yeah, it's really a checklist. Have a look at the marking criteria so you can break it down, break your assignment down at the beginning, so you know how to approach it, how much time, how many words perhaps to spend in each section. And then at the end, look at it as a checklist, and you might be able to push your grade up from one of these boxes to another one on the right there. And it really just tells you what's important to the markers. Again, so here quite a lot of information to synthesize. Let's scan on down the assessments here. Okay, so now there's sort of general information about passing, which is great to know. You can see here that you have to get 50% as a total, but also all of your assignments have to be submitted. So even if you know you're going to pass because you got past the 50%, you still actually have to submit all your assignments. So these kind of things are really useful to know. Grading scale, a little bit more about how to prepare your assignments, which is great. Really nice to be specific there so you're never guessing. Your cover sheets, how to get extensions. So really this is the kind of stuff that's just so useful for you to know. Some of it's the same in different subject outlines, so you kind of will learn that along the way, but other bits are different. So really what I encourage you to do is to read the whole thing, because this is how you can be really in control of your study and be empowered. Yeah, the more you take notice of these things that are provided to you, the more empowered you'll be in your learning. Okay, so that's it for this section, and I will see you in the next one.